Hi, guys, and welcome to my mini workshop this afternoon, this Friday, the 21st of February. And I'd like to encourage you today to set an intention for this session. Why is it important that you're here? Why did you tune into this workshop? Why are you watching it? Full stop. The title is Three Small Steps to Powering Your Progress. And the reason that I have arrived at this workshop is this build up over the last, I think it's a month now, where I've been doing lives, really digging into this idea of the small stuff matters. The small stuff becomes the big stuff. And those of you who know my background as a behaviour analyst, as a psychologist working in schools, working with horses, training horses, we drill down on the first initial steps towards a final outcome. And we as human beings are notoriously averse to actually being able to notice the small stuff. We really struggle with it. We want the success, we want the big result, we want the outcome. And even when we know that the small stuff is important, intellectually we know it's important, we come up against this issue around actually taking action and putting it into practice. And anybody out there on the internet right now coaching will tell you that information is not our problem. Lack of information is not our problem. It's lack of application. And I would take that a step further. In my current role as a coach, it's lack of support, it's lack of structure, it's lack of somebody presenting some sort of accountability, checking in with you, that often is missing. And we find ourselves struggling because we're doing it on our own with no feedback, no reminder, no reinforcement. So, I set my intention today is that you will leave the session today being aware and possibly able to identify some of your limiting beliefs, that you will have a story that you can edit or rewrite depending on what your story currently is. And the final one is that you will definitely have a strong connection and appreciation for the why in your endeavors. And these three steps, understanding your story, understanding your limiting beliefs, and understanding your why are absolutely essential to take you forward in your progress. And the other step that has kind of hinged around the story, uh, I feel is really misunderstood, is your state, your physical and mental state, and having an awareness of how you present yourself, how you turn up, how you behave can influence your progress. So that's my intention, that you will have some of this stuff nailed by the end of today. Now, I've spent the last 3 years, and I'm going to be completely truthful here. It's been chaos. It's been chaos. It's been a roller coaster. It's been a ride where at times I've just thought, the world's going nuts. I'm going nuts. When's this all going to level out? When am I going to finally make it? And during this crazy ride from, working for a organization, feeling supported, feeling safe, and rocketing yourself into this environment where you are working for yourself, where you're online, where you're doing a lot of work in isolation, I have been reminded of the small stuff in this world and how absolutely it becomes the big stuff. And this idea that we need to get back to the basics. And so much of what I'm presenting today has been drawn and pulled from other resources, from other people, and it's my take on how we can powerfully drive forward in whatever endeavor we are undertaking. So last night I met with my membership group, and we were talking about this idea of you don't have, it doesn't have to be a massive goal that's plastered all over Facebook. It can be something that you are working on privately. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be earth shattering, mind blowing. I'm really encouraging people to remember that a worthwhile goal is something that gives you energy, that gives you passion, gives you drive, and it doesn't necessarily have to meet with approval from everybody else. So, we've got to get go of this idea that it's all about fame and fortune and earning a ton of money. It's what's important to you. And the achieving of that goal is only a part of that process. And who you become, what you discover, what you learn about, the skills and the tools that you learn along the way really do make it what it is. And this is something that I'm very aware of, and encouraging people to not discount stuff that they've done along the way. Just because you haven't reached within the time frame that you allotted your goal doesn't mean you discount your behaviors. So the small stuff matters. And my recent lives really did drill down on that. I was talking about some of the small lessons that I learnt on my fitness journey, which have been absolutely invaluable and have given me so much to think about and tap into in terms of other areas of my life. And then I also talked about the importance of language, and how if we can't talk nicely about ourselves, how are we ever going to take care of ourselves and look after ourselves? And if we can't do that, how can we possibly be there for other people? And I've had a lot of conversations with people around this, this idea of doing things for others from a standpoint of self-care versus guilt and obligation. So those formed the foundation of this workshop, because as I was doing that, I kept coming up about this idea of, what is the smallest beginnings? What underpins success? Because there I was talking about, setting yourself up for success, prepping stuff. These were my 4 lessons from fitness. Discovering your why, getting really clear on it, and then measuring what matters, measuring the behaviors towards the outcome. And asking what actually underpins success. And I thought, well, what underpins success is the appreciation of the progress that you're making. And therefore, how do we define, how do we get to the heart of the foundation of real progress? How can we make progress? How can we be clear about where we're moving from? And that is where I came across this belief, my belief, that if we don't have a really good, solid story that empowers us, that gives us excitement and a sense of we've got something to wake up for, we are going to miss opportunities from recognizing progress. If we're not in a state where we feel good about ourselves, where we acknowledge that our well-being, our physical well-being, our mental well-being is part of that progress, we're going to struggle. And if we haven't got it crystal clear why it's an absolute must, we are going to struggle to make progress. And, we know a lot of this, don't we? We know it. It's just, how do we actually take actionable steps towards making things happen? And this is part of this process that I call growth rather than change, We're fine as we are, but we are constantly growing and expanding. And understanding that our story needs to grow with us in order for us to keep growing and expanding, I think is absolutely crucial. And I found myself, and I know other people have found themselves stuck telling the same story from the past, and it's no longer serving us. And the issue with this is, and this is quite interesting, the issue with that is we will live in accordance to that story that we are consistently talking about. And again, we know this. We know this. It's very hard to do something different unless you're talking differently about it. And I also have looked into a lot of this idea of, your identity and what you believe about yourself. And our story is closely linked to that. How do we describe ourselves to other people? What do we say about why we're doing what we're doing, or why we're not doing what we're doing? And our identity is closely linked to that. So we'll behave in accordance with our story and our identity. And we will frequently undermine ourselves in order to stick to that story and stick to that identity. And that is the scary part. And this can be operationalized in terms of people, what do we call it? Self-sabotage. People don't actually live up to their full potential because of the story, because of their beliefs about what they're capable of or what they're not capable of. And even though we often don't articulate it, we've grown up being told certain things about ourselves, or maybe told certain things about our family, told certain things about our cultural background, and what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. And the scary thing is we're often blissfully unaware of these barriers to success. And we need to rethink how we talk about ourselves and how we tell that story, and can we shift it? Does it need editing? I think I was sharing with the girls last night that, let's not be too harsh on ourselves. Let's think about editing it so that it empowers us and gives us a sense of potential and taps into that idea of growth and expansion. We're growing through this story. It's not over yet. There is stuff to be done. So what I'd like you to do, because this is a workshop after all, so I would love you to grab a pen and pencil, a piece of paper and a pen, have it handy, because there's going to be some little things that you can jot down and explore and try out to see if you can identify some of these limiting beliefs that are within your story that maybe are adding to you when you self-sabotage something, a plan you have, a goal you have, and you're not firing it, you're just not meeting it. And so the first thing is, what do you say to people? What is your story? What do you say to people about what you do and describing your abilities, your passions, your interests? If people ask you what you do. And I tap into this idea that, you will do what you believe you can do. But I also believe there's a whole missing potential for many of us that we are missing out on. And this is inside us, and we know it's there. And we cut ourselves off from tapping into that potential. And I see it as the two truths that exist in any situation. And my story around that, the two truths, especially in terms of potential, was my running history, my running story, the one story that I always remember because it was so painful, and that was running the Rotorua Marathon way back. I can't even remember when. 2024, 2025. Now, Rotorua Marathon is a landmark marathon. It is not an easy one to do, and it was my first ever marathon. So, yeah, great choice, Kate. And I vividly remember that I think I ran it twice. I might even have run it three times. But I remember the first time. And I remember getting to the 20K mark. Now, it's at the back of the lake. You've just run up the hill. I mean, my memory of the whole race is very blurred. I've got another funny story about that, but we won't go into that now. I got to the top of the hill, and in this moment, I felt so sick. I felt so drained, so exhausted, having done 20 Ks. And what popped into my head was, I've got another 22 Ks to run. And in that moment, and I've been reflecting on this, there were two truths, right? There were two truths about my situation. The first truth was I was in a lot of pain, and I had run 20 Ks, and I was pondering how the heck was I going to finish. That was true. That was how I felt in that moment. But the other truth that was further back, that needed to be accessed, was I had trained for this event. I had run 40 Ks or 39, 38. I think you never do the full marathon before a marathon, but you push yourself because on the day you can tap in. So there were two truths. There was the truth of how I felt in the moment, but there was the truth that I had done this and I knew I could do it because I trained for it. And in that moment, I tapped in to that truth that was going to power me forward. I tapped into that side of my story because I understood the power of framing a story to get the result that you wanted. And lots of other little things fell into place. My great friend, great running buddy, who was also running with me on that day, her one was just run to the next lamppost, just run to the next marker, just run to the next parked car. And this is another reminder of that small stuff that matters. It matters if you run to the next letterbox, because that means you've only got to run to the next one or the next one. And all those little markers allowed me to complete that marathon. And the funniest thing about that, I have got this stunning finishing race photo. I will have to share it. It's absolutely, it doesn't tell the whole truth. I am running over that finishing line looking like I've just done a 5K sprint. I look incredibly happy. I look like I've got it all together. And yet, 22 Ks earlier, I felt I was drained and I was struggling. So this is that potential that's in you. And I now choose to tap in to that story and remind myself of what is possible when you think all else is falling apart, right? And this is something that you can train yourself to do. You can rewrite your stories. You can edit the highlights because it's about choice. It's about choosing what is going to help me, what is going to serve me in my quest for progress, and what is actually presenting barriers and is just something that I'm so used to talking about. I am actually virtually unaware that I'm doing it. And I would start by asking yourself, what do you believe about yourself? So jot down, what do you believe about your abilities and what do you believe about yourself in terms of achievement or success or getting what you want, overcoming stuff? What do you actually believe? Because this forms part of your story, right? Many people, you'll hear people say, I always struggle with certain situations. I always struggle learning things. I'm a procrastinator. I struggle with this, or I find it really hard to do that. And they've said it before they've really even thought about it. And something that you can do, and again, this harks back to language, is interrupt that by saying, okay, I am not a procrastinator. Sometimes I procrastinate, but that's not who I am. And it's an important distinction, and it will change how you view yourself. And if you can start from that standpoint, eventually it becomes less and less a part of who you are. You don't want to be identifying with that. It's something that you do now and again. And, this is far more than just saying it's semantics. This is habit, this is pattern forming, and this is conditioning to believe a certain thing about yourself that simply isn't true. And even if it's true some of the time, it's not true all of the time. And it doesn't serve us. What do you say when people ask you what you do? Do you say, well, I'm just a... That's a common one for me. I used to have some great stories. I'm just a, or I'm trying to be, or I'm, underselling yourself, undervaluing what you currently do. What do you tell yourself when you're faced with a challenge? Jot that down. Do you say, gosh, in the past, this is so difficult. I'm not looking forward to it. I know it's going to be. I know it's going to be. It always is, blah, blah, blah. How is that serving you? Reframing, rewriting, editing that story so that it actually serves you. Yeah, I found things quite challenging in the past, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm coming into this challenge with a different perspective. I'm coming in with more information. I've grown and expanded since that experience. And the last one I want you to think about in terms of your story is, how do you talk to yourself and how do you talk to other people when you have a success? And I am really finding this popping up a lot with my clients who discount their successes because they don't value the small stuff. And if we don't value the small stuff, we're going to find it really hard to build on that and get to that bigger stuff because it's just going to be too far down the track. If I hadn't, in that running analogy, if I hadn't valued that running to the next lamppost, running that next K, just ticking through them, I would never have got over that finish line. I needed to acknowledge those small steps and give myself that feedback. You're getting there, you're getting there. How do you talk to yourself when you have a success? And remember, it's not just about the outcome. It's about the behavior towards that success. Because again, in that moment, you are building on something. And you need to have that foundation in order to be able to build on the next step and the next step. And I think this has this has transpired over through my own experience. Like fitness is a classic, isn't it? You're not going to go into the gym on day one and come out looking like you've been to the gym. You're not going to notice any changes. You have to tap in to that idea that you've done the behavior that is leading to the ultimate outcome, which is the physique that you are seeking. But if you knock those first early steps, if you say, well, flipping heck, I haven't even lost any weight after that day one. I mean, we make jokes about it, but believe me, there are people out there who actually do discount themselves and their behaviors, and that is self-sabotage. And tapping into actually how do you behave towards yourself when you have these small wins? Do you even notice them? Is a key to rewriting your story and to powering your progress. The next one that I want to be getting you guys to think about is the idea that our story and how we live out that story and how we behave based on that story is also going to be reflected in our state. And, again, we know a lot about emotional state and physical state and the connection, the mind-body connection, how we talk about ourselves, how we present ourselves. And, in one of my posts, I talked about this idea of the movie star that, walks into the room heavily disguised with whatever, baseball cap and glasses. And people look up, they walk into, they appear somewhere, and people know, you'll see photographers photographing them, and they're doing their research trying to figure out who it is. What is it? Because people walk around with sunglasses and baseball caps all the time. The thing that is missing and that is present in a lot of people who are high-profile personalities, especially in terms of, I think, in musicians and movie stars, is their presence, their state. They're used to attention for behaving a certain way. They own themselves. They own the environment they're in. They draw people to them because of the way they carry themselves. Now, I started to get my head around this quite a lot in terms of stage presence. And your state, I'm sitting here with the fan blowing my hair, your state can make or break you before you even get on stage. And I often liken this to, public examples, for example, can be, you go into a shop and you encounter somebody in the shop who's working in the shop. You're looking for a size, you're looking for a product, you ask them a question, do you have this in a size whatever? Do you have this in black? Do you have this in white? Whatever it might be. And the person sort of goes, oh, I don't know. I'm not really sure, and they're looking down and they're looking confused. And you kind of go, this person has no idea. You have no confidence in them. Their state does not instill you with confidence, let alone their comments. Whereas you can go in and talk to some people and they give you the same information. They might say, I'm not sure. Just a moment. But the way they carry themselves, the way they make eye contact with you, the way they walk gives you confidence that they have got it in control and they're going to sort it, even though they don't necessarily know. Just one moment. I'm just going to go and talk to so-and-so because they're on, I don't know, they're on that product line or they know more about that, whatever. And you feel, yeah, this person's got it sorted. This person is making progress. This person has a belief about themselves, their capabilities, and they will power through whatever. And you can almost guarantee that that person is going to take on board your question for next time. They're going to be prepped. So your state is absolutely part of making progress and part of believing your story. Act as if you believe your story. Why not give it a try? And the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, eye contact, voice tone, conveys confidence. And it starts here, doesn't it? It starts here. So, we've talked about story. We've talked about state. The other one that I feel, the step that is missing for so many people, especially people seeking guidance, seeking support, seeking coaching in whatever area, doesn't matter if it's fitness, doesn't matter if it's you're trying a new, to learn something new, doesn't matter if you're in whatever, it's absolutely applicable to anything that you are moving towards, is getting crystal clear on why this is important to you. And I cannot emphasize this enough. It's absolutely been pivotal for some of my clients. It was pivotal for me to tap into something that drives you through the tough times that we know are going to happen. We can set everything up for success. We can have belief, we can have a great story, we can be walking around super confident, like we own everything and we know it's going to happen. We can be talking about ourselves using language that empowers us. But stuff is going to happen. Barriers are going to come up. We're going to meet someone who's just going to floor us with something. And your why is what you're going to tap into in those moments. Because just wanting it is not enough. If wanting something was enough, we'd all be fine. We'd all be millionaires. We'd all be doing what we want. We'd all be ecstatically happy in the relationships of our dreams if wanting was enough. Because it's all possible and we know that. As I said, lack of information is not our problem, it's lack of application. And on top of that, it's lack of understanding that the why is going to come before all else. And I was talking to someone that comes to me for regular coaching the other day about this, and I said, the why comes before the hows. And the reason behind that is if you start going through the hows, how am I going to do this? How's it going to happen? You will stop before you've even started. You won't even get off the starting blocks, 9 times out of 10, depending what your goal is, of course. You will find reasons not to do it because it just sounds like this massive to-do list that is daunting, scary, and we don't want to go there. And remember, we're hardwired to look for escape routes. And we can paint these great pictures of us having willpower and everything else, but at the end of the day, we are all seeking the easiest path possible. It's natural for us to do that. So why not set ourselves up for success? But part of that is understanding that even though we're looking for that easy path, we're still going to come up against roadblocks, and we need something to fuel us through that. And you'll read famous people's stories. There's some great stuff out there of what people have tapped into in their darkest moments. People that have been close, near-death experiences. Something has driven that person, has pulled that person back from the brink. And it certainly wasn't, how am I going to do this? Because their situation was virtually impossible. And they tapped into something much deeper than, how am I going to survive this? And the secret to the why is digging deep into the heart. It's getting out of the head and getting into your heart. And the process that I've used with this is Dean Graziosi's 7 Levels Deep, which is simply asking the same question to the preceding answer. So whatever question it is usually obviously around your goal. So if you've got a goal, let's take the fitness goal. You know, I want to lose so much weight. I want to be healthier. I want to be fitter. And the first question you're going to ask yourself is, why is that important to you? Now, apparently, the 7 questions is a formula that has just shown to be the key to getting to the heart. It takes 7 repetitions of that question to get out of here and all the sensible, rational answers into the heart. And when I've done it with clients, I've had people squirming in their seats, getting very uncomfortable because they realize that they're having to dig deep into something that they have never actually addressed. And it should feel like an emotional experience. You should feel yourself getting highly charged around it, because we know that where there's a strong emotion, the why will absolutely take you through. It's so much deeper than just, oh yeah, I'd quite like to be fit. It'd be quite fun to be able to, you know, have a summer body or whatever people say. And then the excuses kick in. Yeah, but I haven't got the time. Yeah, I can't get to the gym every day. I've got a family. I've got a partner. I've got a business. I've got a job, whatever. Tapping into that, why is it important to you? Why is it a must? Is absolutely at the heart of progressing towards what you want. And I encourage people to think and reflect on what has stopped you in the past. Like, often it's the same goal, right? We're a different person, but we're pursuing a similar goal. And it's going, what did you try in the past? What's changed for you? What do you need to draw on now? What information do you have that's going to enable you to push through this? And keep coming back to, why is that important to you? What do you need to do to make it happen? I need to dig deeper, and I need to understand why this goal keeps coming up. Because the common thing is, people have repeatedly failed to sustain. They might have reached the goal, but they haven't kept, it hasn't been sustainable. It's slipped away. Time and time it's slipped away. And we want to be looking at sustaining it and growing from that goal. Because life is about growth and expansion. Nothing stays the same. So if we can tap into that, what's worked for us in the past, what didn't work for us, but more importantly, why is it a must now? And I mean, some of my clients have really dug incredibly deep, and it's become something as simple as, I never want to be the sort of person that does this, this, and this. I want to prove to myself that I'm capable. I've never had the opportunity to do things my way, and now is the time. You know, stuff that comes from the heart, not, well, I need to be thinking about my health. Yes, we know that, and that's really important. But thinking about your health has not apparently worked in the past. And that's where we need to call ourselves out. We all know we should exercise more, eat better foods, whatever. We all know that. Be good for our health. But that is not going to push us when we're surrounded by people consuming donuts and drinking and doing whatever. And we're trying to live in alignment with what? With our goal. So tap into that why, the 7 levels deep, repeating that question. Why is this important to you? Why is it important to you to do whatever? And then the answer, you just repeat it again. So those are the very simple, small steps that I believe underpin progress, which in turn underpins success. And if we can get clear on those small steps, our story, our state, and our why, we're going to have that strong foundation for being able to pursue anything, whether it's learning the guitar, learning to speak French, taking up a new hobby, starting a new business, leaving a job, starting a new relationship. Could be anything. Maybe it's as simple as just changing the language that you use around yourself, like going back to that self-care. And maybe only you are going to notice the difference. But having those 3 steps nailed is going to enable you to make progress because you've got a foundation. It's not just pie in the sky. So I hope, I'm just looking for, I've got so many notes here, it's hysterical. I hope that you have got something from this mini workshop. Now, I did say, initially that the reason I have been working towards doing something like this is because I don't advertise. I post on Facebook. I am relying on referrals. I'm relying on people being interested in what I do and attracting clients who are attracted to my message, to my story, and to what I do. And what I do is I coach people online to achieve what they want to do, to give them that foundation, to enable them to do and be whoever they want to be or whatever they want to do. And I guess the idea of this workshop grew out of the need to share more. I have not been very proactive in actually explaining what I do. And the other thing was I'm looking at running a workshop on this topic in more depth. And I wanted to get some feedback from this mini workshop as to whether it's something that would interest people enough to sign up for a workshop. Now, I have got 2 options that I am looking at, and I would love feedback. I would really, absolutely, one of my goals this year is to hold an in-person event, and I would love to do this as an in-person workshop. Alternatively, I will be doing it online as well, because obviously not everyone can get to Auckland, and I have to come up with a venue, and I have to think of somewhere that is attractive and suitable. But I would love your feedback on the topic, and I will be sharing like a mini survey so that I can get some feedback. The topic and whether you would be up for an in-person or a virtual version of the workshop, or maybe I do both. So that is my mini workshop on those 3 small steps to powering your progress. If you would like to receive a copy or a link to the recording, I am going to be sharing it on YouTube. Please drop me a DM. Please email me, and I'll put that in the comments, for any information on the workshop, any information on my coaching program. And if you have any questions about the content that I've covered today, again, please drop me a direct message or drop me an email. And I watch this space. I will be sharing more very soon. So that is the end of my workshop, and I will catch up with you soon.